I've talked with a lot of you over the past few months about independent expenditures and what happened to Governor Stitt. I've talked with you about what happened to Cindy Berg. I've talked with you about just the volume of independent expenditures that have come out. Now, under U.S. Supreme Court precedent, under federal law, under state law, there's not a lot that can be done to regulate independent expenditures. But what can be done is looking at the rules for other entities and how they operate within politics. And we at the state party, since 2015, have essentially been handcuffed by the State Ethics Commission in our ability to coordinate with state ethics commissions, or I'm sorry, with our state elected officials. There's a lot of things I can do legally with the FEC that I'm not allowed to do under state law. And I know Pam knows exactly what I was talking about because Pam and I went to the State Ethics Commission back in 2015, and we said, what about Rule X, Rule Y, Rule Z? We've been able to do this. And they said, no, you can't do that anymore. And so I sent a letter in light of the independent expenditures that we've seen out there on issues. And I said, you got to free up the state political parties to do a number of things. First of all, I asked for operational costs to be addressed. I asked for those operational costs to be adjusted. In a lot of states around the country, what they do is, while campaign costs for advertising, costs for campaign staff, things like that, those sort of things are actually regulated differently than keeping the lights on, keeping the building in good shape. And so while a state may actually have a ban on corporate contributions for political purposes, those states do not for making sure that the facility and structure itself is actually held, maintained, and appropriate. So I've asked for the Ethics Commission to look into assisting with that. I've asked them to look at the contribution limits. We're heavily restricted on our contribution limits. So I've asked them to examine that. But certainly to the issue that Pam and I have talked with them about years ago, I've asked them to look at the surplus fund restriction. And so there are certain things, for example, if Governor Stitt had wanted us to do a mailing for him, we couldn't do that mailing for him under the rules. So I did get a response from the Ethics Commission. They do plan to do something. We're going to have a couple of meetings. I actually heard from the Libertarian chair and the Democrat chair after I sent that letter, and they are on board with what we as a Republican Party are trying to push. Probably be a little bit of nuance in position, but that's something that we are going to do to try to change so that this party is more empowered and more fully capable of helping our candidates in opposition to some of the independent expenditure groups that are out there. So that is that issue. The next thing I want to talk about is convention. I'm just going to touch on it briefly. Where's Mike Staub? Michael Staub is your new platform committee chair for convention. Now, Mike Staub is also, I've also assigned him to another special task as well, and it was one that he was very excited about. Mike Staub is now going to be the minority outreach chair. We had a great year with our Hispanic Outreach Center. That's about to be moved to a new location. We have one in South Oklahoma City. It's going to be moved to a new location coming up. And we're going to continue that outreach. It was very beneficial. But talking with Mike, he has a true heart, not just for outreach within Native American communities here in Oklahoma, but he has the ability, he has the familiarity and ability to reach out nationwide to try to bring Native American communities into the fold to vote for Republicans in states like Wisconsin and in Minnesota and some of these other states where we really do need to grow our outreach efforts and grow our vote totals. So I'm excited about what he wants to accomplish, and I'm going to give him the full latitude to do what it is that he wants to do in that. Where's Rhonda Smith? Where's Rhonda Smith? She's still out in the hall. Since she's out in the hall, I'm going to tell you all that she's been given the unsavory task of being the Credentials Committee chair. She actually told me no at first, and I said no, and she said okay. And so she's agreed to do that, and she's going to get to work on some wonderful things on behalf of your Oklahoma Republican Party. And then, where's Leon? Leon Ferris is going to be your Rules Committee chair for convention. I thought it was really important. Yeah, that's right. So when I went out, I kind of looked at some of the chairs that we had in the past, and I thought about some of those chairs. They're great. They're good people, and they would be good to serve in the roles again. But what I wanted to do was reach out to new people that can start to kind of take over some of those past responsibilities so that we can have fresh blood coming through. And so, you want me to talk to him? Spam call. I love talking spam call. But I thought it was good to try to include new voices in what we're doing here at the State Republican Party. And I'm glad that each one of them came on board. So thank you in particular there, Leon, who kind of didn't want to do it, I don't think either, but did. So I'm honored that you're doing it. I think Steve is going to give a report on the proxy committee here in a little bit. But I want to talk about something I've been thinking about. I was thinking about it before the proxy committee started doing their work. One of the things that I've constantly said that when I became chair, I want to, restructure our state party. I want to make sure that it's operating more business-like. But most importantly, I want to make sure that we don't have some of the issues that we have, for example, in our rules. As somebody who was the attorney for the state party for 12 years, and many of you know, the rules are inconsistent with each other. Sometimes they say things that don't make sense or conflict with another portion. And so it's my hope that we are going to move into reformatting and restructuring our rules. Pam and I have talked about this. It's a tough job to go through and rewrite and restructure what we have. But it's something that we need to do. And so that's a task that I'm hoping that we can begin here in the new future, or in the future. But along those lines, one of the things that I also want to do as an interim step toward that, and it's my hope that one of your counties will actually bring these forward as rules at convention, is I would like to, we have a temporary credentials and resolutions and rules committee for conventions, but I actually want to bring forward permanent committees for these. And that credentials committee would oversee not just convention, but it would oversee these meetings as well, or any meeting that we actually hold. I would like a rules committee to continue to restructure those rules and possibly bring those rules forward to this body. Now it requires, I believe, a 3/4 vote of this body to change rules. But I think if we came together with a rules package, I think that we could get the people in the room to start contemplating some of these things that we need to do to improve the way that we operate. Now, none of this at all has an agenda behind it or anything like that. This is simply just the reality of where we are, is that we need to look at restructuring. I don't have any thoughts or guidance on what that should look like in any way, shape, or form. I just know that it needs to be done. So I look forward to your thoughts and consideration on that, and hopefully some rules at convention that can change the way that we do those things here at the state party. So let's talk about the FEC a little bit. I don't want to dive too much into this because it is still ongoing, but I do want to give you an update, is that the audit has been completed by the FEC. There is no final resolution to it yet. So the brief facts that I'll provide is that any finding, well, let me back up before I do that. All of the legwork that was done on this was done by the Chairman Bennett's team. Like, they went out and they collected invoices and scoured important. So I really appreciate the work that they did, because not only is it tough, but it's something that needed to be done, and they did a good job at it. So I want to thank Chairman Bennett's folks for the work that they did on that. The audit is done. There's not a lot of significant findings that are coming out of it, but every single finding that came out of it involved David McLean's time as chair. It's a list of them. They're all minor, but it's a list of them, and none of them involved Pam's time as National Committee woman and as state chairman. Sorry. But there's things that need to be fixed, and I don't want to besmirch a man that has passed away, but we had somebody who should not have been doing the reporting for the state party. That's the unfortunate truth of what was going on. And the man was ill and passed away from what he was dealing with, but he missed reporting deadlines. He didn't know what he was doing, and that's unfortunate. So we will be dealing with the FEC in the coming months. There will be probably a hefty fine. The last time the state party got a fine like this, I think it was $40,000. So I wouldn't expect anything less than that on this. But fortunately, as a result of the efforts I've been doing fundraising, I'm optimistic that we should be able to get it paid pretty successfully on that front. I sat on the phone and called donors yesterday and raised $10,000. So I know we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit with Joan Elliott's report, but we ended the year close to $600,000 on the balance sheet during my time as chair. It wasn't easy, I'll be perfectly honest, but already the enthusiasm that I've had talking to donors is they're excited about what they saw, and they want to be part of what we're doing here at the Oklahoma Republican Party. I want to also remind you, I should have said this when I was talking about my letter to the Ethics Commission, I also want to remind counties that even though you don't have a reporting requirement to the State Ethics Commission or to the FEC, I really need you to make sure that you're following state ethics rules. State Ethics Commission actually called me about one county that is attempting to raise well above their maximums right now. They said that they may be looking into that. So when I'm dealing with the Ethics Commission trying to get us freed up to do some new things, I really need to ask you that if you have a question about state ethics rules or contribution limits or things like that, please do give us a call, because it's really important that we try to do everything we can to stay in compliance across the state, both at the state level and at the county level, and at the local level for that matter.
There's your fundraiser.
I'm sorry?
There's a fundraiser. We do it at Lions Club. Every time somebody's phone rings, we donate so many dollars to them.
Can we make it 1,000?
Hey Jay, who asked the question?
Can you stand up? I'm sorry, our secretary's wanting your name and county.
It's hard to hear here. All the sound
And
goes
I tried
straight
to
up
say
to
that, but I mean, this is a really great idea. You're talking about fundraisers. Let's do it. Joe Ellen Williams, Mays County Chairwoman.
Joellen Williams, Mays County Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Sandy Roberts, Oklahoma County. I rise to a point of order.
Okay.
In light of the fact that we are a large group, I ask that members would come to order and to properly obtain the floor by rising, addressing the chair, and stating your name.
That's fine. If that's what you want, that's fine. It doesn't bother me, but if that's what you want, I'm more than happy to.
It makes it
oblige.
easier for the secretary.
It does. It does. I've had a lot of you calling, and a lot of you that aren't here, calling, emailing, even coming to my house, talking to me about the RNC chair's race and other things. But they've been asking about the RNC chair's race. And so I want to address my views on that for you, because I know a number of you either haven't or maybe haven't heard where my position is. And my view is that I'm new to the RNC right now. I've been to one meeting. I'm still trying to kind of get the lay of the land and try to figure out what's going on with everything. But there are a few things I do know. The first is, I know Mike Lindell. I talk to him on a regular basis. We've talked 6 or 7 times in the past year. I met him originally for some work that I do in Virginia, and I think he's a good man, and I think that his heart is true for trying to help for not only the Oklahoma Republican Party, but for all Republicans across the country. So I do believe that he is a man of faith and that he wants to try to change things for our party. I know Ronna McGinn. I don't know her well, but there's some things that I would like to see different about the way that she operates. I don't fault her for a lot of what occurred, over the past few years. I know as a chair, you got to run the candidates that you're given. So I don't fault her for that, but I will also say that I appreciate her, because when my best friend was running for Attorney General in Virginia and we didn't have the money to run a week of ads, she provided it without question. And so I know that we have a lieutenant governor, a governor, and an attorney general in Virginia because she stepped up to help. So I do appreciate her for that. And then there's Harmeet Dillon. I've never had a positive interaction with her in my professional career. I've known her for some time. And she even admitted to me in a text that she did serve on the board of the San Francisco ACLU at one point. I can go further, but I don't feel that I need to. What I will tell you is I'm still exploring what I'm going to do, and I probably won't decide until the morning I go in to vote. But part of that involves who's actually running, because as a number of RNC folks around the country have told me, you can show up on day of and run. To be perfectly honest, if Matt Pinnell was in this race, it would be an easy decision for me. I wish Matt Pinnell was thinking about this. So it's not easy for me. I'm trying to figure it out. I appreciate your thoughts that you've shared with me on this issue, and that's where I stand on that. So I have not made up a final decision on which way I'm going to go. Last thing that I'm going to say is, look just to make sure I'm getting everything here. Oh, let me talk about convention very briefly, and I know we're going to have a little bit of a section on convention a little bit. So many of you know that the work of the last convention was not completed. And so there's work to do from that convention. Now, talking with a number of you and trying to figure out the best way to handle all of these issues, we're going to have a 2-day convention. It's going to be on Friday, May 5th, and Saturday, May 6th. Now, I have had some concerns from folks about trying to take work off and things like that, and I understand those things. And so this is what we are currently envisioning. It's not the final, but here's what we're currently envisioning. That we will call the order on Friday. It'll be an organizational day. There will be no votes taken on that day. There will be some debate on the issues that are to come before the convention the next day. So there'll be some pre-debate. If we can find the proper venue, we're going to have some breakout sessions. There's going to be opportunities. The Leadership Institute from Arlington, Virginia has already said we want to come in and do some trainings. I'm all for that. So if we can find the proper venue to put this in, we're going to have some breakout sessions. We're going to have some meetings. This is going to be an organizational day and a conversation day. There will be pre-registration. Rhonda insisted that that be one of the conditions of her serving as credentials chair. Pre-registration will occur, and that will help make registration on-site efficient. And the idea of that efficiency is simply you walk in, you show your ID, you've already been verified in the election system. You get your packet, you're ready to vote. That's the idea of what we're trying to do, and we're trying to make it that simple. We'll have a gala that night. We're talking to a number of different individuals who are interested in coming in. I have no picture this far out of who that exactly will be, but I'm excited about the names that I've been working with on that. And then we'll get right to work on Saturday. There will be an amended credentials report for those that didn't show up on Friday. We will allow those who could not attend on Friday or appear on Friday to be considered as part of the convention body, as long as they were pre-registered. And then we'll get right to work. We're going to get right to work at 8 or 9:30 in the morning. We're going to start taking votes as quickly as we can. We're there to do your business. But I love hearing from all the elected officials, but after you've heard from 3 or 4 of them, it gets really boring and you want to get to work, right? And so that's really the goal of what we're envisioning right now for that convention. I don't know what the final is going to look like, but I know that with the chairs that I have in place, that we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure that we've provided you the best possible convention experience that's possible. The last thing that I will say before I step off and let the vice chair up here to speak is I have had some questions from some folks about me, and the answer is yes, I'm running again. I don't want to run for 2 years. I'm not going to run after that. But I feel like there's more to do. I feel like the business of restructuring this party needs to go on, and I'd like to continue to do that as your chair. So with that, it's Shane's job to come up here.
You want your credentials report?
Oh, well, we're not voting on anything yet, but you can give it to us if you want.
Well, we did meet quorum, so we have 176 total with 20 guests as well. 100 by state law, not by state law, by our state party rules is what is required for a quorum.
We talked about you while you were out in the hall, just so you know.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I told them how horrible you are. I told them how horrible you're going to be, too.
We're good.
Wayne.
Question of clarification.
Yeah.
On Wayne Hill, Osage County, GOP chair. People that do not show up on Friday for the state meeting, you said the credential committee would consider whether to allow them to come in. What are those extended circumstances? As long as we're not as long as they were pre-registered.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and thank you. I guess I didn't make that clear. So what my intent is you should be there Friday, and you should credential in on Friday. I know already from some folks that they're not going to be able to be there Friday. They've got to work, they've got to come in from too far, whatever. Those people who are unable to do that will be given the ability to sign in on Saturday morning, but they need to be pre-registered. Everybody who comes to convention needs to be pre-registered.
So as long as they're pre-registered,
As long as-
and they said they have to work, they will be accepted into
As long as they paid the fee online and they
the
pre-registered,
criteria. Okay.
paid above the door. I'm not opposed to their.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for addressing our question.
Brian Hobbs, King County Chair. I ran into it the last convention. Sent names back and forth to the state party. Names were, I get the wrong names. I never got confirmed. I had to go through a committee at the last convention with basically every one of my people from every delegate from my county to go through the credentialing process. What guarantee do I have that we're not going to run into that problem? I see
Let me- Yeah, I do. And there's a couple of things I'll say to that. Is first of all, within each of your packets today, you have a form in there, because some of you we don't have correct information for. Some of you, unfortunately, we run into at least one situation where one of you is on our email list. We can see you on our email list. We've tried working this through a number of times. You're just not getting the emails. And so we don't, and it's not just us, it's an issue that's been ongoing. So to your point, stay in conversation with our state party headquarters, but we need this form filled out from each of you today so we have the correct information for you. Leave it at the desk. Josh will pick it up when we're
Can I
done.
just address a couple of those?
And I was going to let Rhonda come up quickly to kind of share her current thoughts on how that's going to go.
Okay, the way that I see credentialing happening is because we want to make certain that the people that are able to register for the convention are actually delegates, are going to be actual delegates, that those names are going to be loaded into the list of people that can potentially be a delegate to the convention. So as long as the county makes certain that they get their information to the state, so that we can then load that list into the program that we're going to be using, then there should not be a problem. But if there is, it's just going to, and you're going to know it when you go to register, because it's going to tell you, I'm sorry, you're not eligible to register, you can register as a guest. And so, so you're going to know ahead of time whether or not there's problems, and we will work these problems out. But the way that I foresee it happening is it's going to be as easy as you show up, you put your name into the iPad, it's going to pull up your registration, you show your identification, it will print you a badge. I'm asking that there be a QR code put on it so that the next day, if you've registered or on Friday, the next day you come in, you've got your QR code, you walk up to the thing, you put it up there, and now you're credentialed for that convention for that day. So we want it to be smooth, we want it to be easy, there's no reason it should take as long as it does, and I hope that you support the resolution that we talk about later. Yes, ma'am.
Kayleen Stupich, Vice Chair, Oklahoma County. My recommendation is to provide 2 email addresses, because even your update went to my spam folder. I'd gotten all the others, but this one went to the spam folder, but it went to my so it does help to do 2.
Cox will not, a lot of times they don't recognize us as they recognize it as spam.
And Gmail.
So yes, if you can provide 2 emails, and I can tell you also, if you're a husband and wife and you register under the same email, you're going to have separate emails. Okay? Even if you set up a Gmail account just for this event, you're going to have separate emails so that we can make certain that each person is identified. And anybody that has any questions or that would like to volunteer to serve on the Credentials Committee, I would love for you to reach out to me. Thank you.
Just 2 things real quick that I want to address that I should have. Just so you have an expectation of what the cost is going to be this year. This is a 2-day convention, so the price is going to go up, and our costs on securing a facility are going to go up. I hate to speculate exactly right now, but expect the registration cost to be somewhere between $100 and $130. It is for a 2-day convention, so we got to rent a space for 2 days. There is inflation on some of these facilities. We're not trying to raise profit off this or anything like that. We're just simply trying to deal with the reality of the times and the requirement that we put this together for 2 days. So, I think you had a question.
Yeah, John Fells, Woods County.
Say that again.
John Fells, Woods County. We got a convention. We're supposed to solidify our platform, the rules, and get all that stuff cleaned up. And that was supposed to happen before the election of the executive election for the officers. Is that still going to happen before that, so that we have people just have to finish that?
So according to our party rules, any unfinished business from the last convention must take precedence at the next one. So anything from the last convention will be considered first, and then we would move into the business of this convention.
All right.
So I'm guessing the way that, just thinking off the top of my head, that's going to involve all of the business, all the resolutions and platform, or whatever was remaining from the last convention. We would do election of officers that are up, including chair and vice chair. And then we would move into the resolutions and platform and everything like that from the new convention. But that's not final yet, so that would be logically under the rules how it would operate.
You don't have a capital audience all day, and we won't have a...
Yeah, and that's frankly why it's really important for me that we get to work when we're getting started on Saturday. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Point of information.
Yeah. Can you?
Sorry, Linnell Medley, McIntosh County Chair. So my question is we're already bearing a lot of extra expenses, hotels, we have to say, we're all paying the inflation on the gas, so that's not really an extra issue. But is there not any way that the Oklahoma State Office can't help to defray those costs? That we're already bearing extra costs?
So my understanding is the last convention cost about $50 for registration. And so for a 2-day convention, doubling that to 100, it is, makes sense. But we're going to do everything we can to keep it as low as possible. But do expect it's probably going to unfortunately be in that range. And just to tell you, we haven't, I should have said this, we haven't decided on location yet. We're looking at offers from Tulsa and from Oklahoma City on some of these things. I got a bid back for something for $100,000. That's not going to fly, unfortunately. But I am looking at these things and I'm trying to keep it as affordable as possible.
Well, my point is that we're already bearing a share of the extra expense, number one. And number two, I don't know how much you said that you spent on that election night watch party. But I mean,
$12,000.
if we had funds, what's that?
$12,000.
Okay, and I don't know how that even compares to this.
It was
But
pretty cheap.
I feel like we're already bearing an increase in the expense, and I feel like the state party needs to bear a share of that expense as well, instead of pushing it off to us.
Thank you for that. I assure you, I want to do everything I can to make it as affordable as possible. We're going to do everything we can.
But $150 is really not doable for some of these smaller counties and these delegates that we're trying to get here.
I said probably somewhere between 100 and 130,
Yeah.
and we're going to keep that as low as possible, I assure you. We're not trying to make this a profit center. I know in the past it's been used as a profit center, but we're not trying to do that here.
I'm not looking at it as a profit center, I'm looking at it as possibly disenfranchising delegates.
I understand. I understand. But that's what happens when we have a 2-day convention.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of information, I guess. Would the chairman consider in the 2-day format in the session that the Friday evening be for speeches, campaigning, and all the things that don't require business, do the credentialing on Saturday morning, and where all the voting and the business is done, so that people who maybe don't want to bear that extra expense could opt out of all the speeches and
So we haven't come to any final conclusions really on any of this. It's still kind of being built and structured. But the one thing that I can tell you is we want to be as affordable and economic as we possibly can on it. But the other part is that we're trying to deal with is I can't have credentials in the morning because you've been to every county state convention over the past 15 years. You know that we don't get started till 2 or 3, or in fact, I think Gary Jones, when he chaired it 1 year, they never actually did have a credentials report, and they just went ahead without it.
Right.
So I think it's really important that our credentials team have the ability to work on that Friday so that we can start voting immediately on Saturday.
Alice Woodson, Payne County. We've always had basically a 2-day deal. When are we going to have our state committee meeting? Because we always have to have that before, and the committees on the day before.
It'll be on that Friday. We will have time on that Friday to hold that state
Early
committee.
morning. And even $130 is going to be keeping a lot of people from being delegates.
I understand, and I can't bear the burden, unfortunately, of what happened at the last convention, but that work wasn't done, and I just want to solve it going
I'm just
forward.
saying that we have a lot of people who didn't come to the last one because of how much it cost. And you've got a lot of people that don't have a lot of money and spending for a couple, $250, $300 plus a motel room and other stuff. It's going to stop people from coming. It's hard. I know everything's more expensive.
And I appreciate that. We're going to do everything we can to try to lower that burden. But the fact of the matter is, I can't put it on for $50. That $50 is not going to happen, unfortunately. So we're going to do what we can. Montana charges $125. North Dakota charges $130.
We took it upon ourselves as county.
Name
Name county.
Karen Haas, Cotton County. As our leadership took on that responsibility to raise that money to pay for those expenses for the people that are our delegates. It's not as hard as you think it is as a party to raise that money. We created t-shirts and sold t-shirts. We put booths in all the county activities. We paid for all our trips up here to stay because we raise that money ourselves. So if you have delegates, it's part of your job as a county chair and your county party to be fundraising. So get out there and raise that money so you can pay for your people to participate. It's not that hard.
I want to make sure that we're being efficient moving on, but let me get Leon in here real quick and Dr. Price after her, and then I want to move on, unfortunately, so we're being efficient with our time.
Leon Ferris, Chairman of Stevens County. We're a small county, and we raised $40,000 this year. If you want to get out, if you want to come to this convention, you can raise the money to get us. What's mine?
Dr. Price.
Paul Price, Tulsa County. I do annual events 3 times a year.
Yeah, we can't hear you here.
No?
Pastor, what you got?
Oh, I got one. And sometimes what we think is a cost problem can just be handled as a management issue. We do events 3 times, 4 times a year. We have people who are regulars. What they do is they give us a credit card. We hit it monthly for what they want to pay so that the whole cost is paid by the time they get to the event. And nobody's hurting. So if they want to say, I'll do $5 a week or $20 a month, we auto-draft it and it's done.
Again, I know there's going to be a lot of questions on this issue, and I want to be efficient with it.
Brian Holmes, K County Chair. You know, a lot of our people have to drive 2 hours, and I would like to, I don't want to get into it, but saying quit whining is probably not appropriate to that kind of talk. So, we're trying to treat each other with respect here. Thank you. So moving on, sorry.
I don't disagree with that.
No, so moving on. So we've got a lot of us around here. I know I see Gregory. He's out this. He's 3 hours probably. I've got 2. The Panhandle's got 4. There was a reference to David McLean's convention at being $50. Well, that had jumped tremendously from previous conventions where we just used the Methodist church down there and more or something like that, where we don't have to incur these massive costs. So McLean jumped it up, and that should not be the bar that we're reaching for when it comes to financial. I mean, this is a party that's supposed to reach out for everybody, and especially, our grassroots people. Not everybody's got that kind of money laying around, so just please be considerate of that when picking it. Thank you.
We are considering all affordable options. Like I said, we received a pitch for something for $100,000. That's not going. That's just not within the budget. Again, I know you all have many questions, but I do want to be more efficient. I'm happy to discuss this in the future going forward as we're looking at it. But let me bring up Shane to give the Vice Chair's report.
Sorry, guys. Talking. How's everybody doing?
Good.
So, I usually say I'm not very long-winded. I might be a little longer-winded than usual today. But I have an update for you guys. I talked to Chairman Ferrati earlier this week, and I've talked to a few in this room. I will not be running for re-election for Vice Chairman. When I ran 3 years ago, I made a decision to serve this body and make sure that this body, particularly Eastern Oklahoma, had a voice and a seat at the table to feel like we could have the same resources in Eastern Oklahoma that we had in Oklahoma City and other parts of the state. I believe that it's time for someone else among this body to step up and serve within that role. And I think there is probably somebody that is qualified to do that, more qualified than I. And, I've enjoyed this role. I really have. It's been fun. But with any servant leadership-based role, I think it's times to step aside and do so. So I thank you guys for allowing me to have the opportunity for the last 3 years to serve you. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around. I'll be sitting here in the seats with each and every one of you. But for now, I'm going to step aside. And, if you're thinking about running for vice chair, I encourage you to look at it. There are things that are time-consuming about this role, and there are days where you have to be a listening ear, but at the end of the day, you have to rise above what you may hear from others from time to time, and that's what these roles are here for. So that's a big piece of my report today. Chairman Ferrati and I talked another piece this week. I guess one of our few Democrat state representatives, Mickey Dollins, has offered a bill that is really not good for Oklahoma. How many of you are familiar with ranked ballot voting? Ranked choice. Okay, right. So, yeah, it's just ranked. This is something we really need to pay attention to. Obviously, it's not going to get any traction in the legislature. Neil's saying no. We know for a fact it will not. But what I'm concerned, and what we should be concerned about, is not necessarily it being a bill go through the legislature, but we have this little mechanism in the state called initiative petition. And that is going to be their strategy, is to make sure that that is an initiative petition that is on the ballot next election cycle. So we have to do everything we can to communicate within our communities how important it is not to have ranked ballot voting here in this state. We've seen what it's done to other states. Alaska is a great example. Alaska now has a Democrat congressman because of ranked choice voting. I call it ranked ballot voting, ranked choice voting, same thing. We have to make sure that we don't have that here in Oklahoma. So, folks, I'm always happy to be a resource. I'm not going to talk long. One other thing I will note. So I do thank Councilman Bradley Carter for helping us to be able to acquire this venue. You'll notice here in the back, coffee. I actually asked Councilman Carter to also provide coffee today. So, uniquely with Councilman Carter's coffee element, it's actually a part of a nonprofit that Councilman Carter and his wife facilitate here with
the National Committee Man report is up. And Steve, if you feel comfortable with it, if you choose and want to give your proxy update during your report, feel free to do that as well.
I can do that. I set the proxy report aside because I saw it was on the agenda a little bit later, but I'd be glad to get that if you want me to cover all this at one time. I'd be glad to. Well, let's break that up a little bit. I will tell you, as far as the proxy committee report, we've met on numerous occasions, and I think when I do give the report on that, I think people will be delighted to hear kind of the progress we've made and what we're coming up with, and I think you're going to like the outcome of our work in that, and I'll share the information on the committee. Right now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the RNC. Nobody's concerned about anything at the RNC right now, are they? So I just kind of, by now, most of you probably know that I'm leaning toward Ron McDaniel for election. So the question is, why? Because I know, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, everybody, the majority of the people in here, I'm sure, are wanting a different outcome than that. So why would I do that? And I'm going to share with you why. I mean, one of the reasons you elect people to these positions is to potentially be very thoughtful and deliberate in the choices that we make, the committees we work on, the effort we make in that regard, and who we elect, and why. So, the other night I spoke over an hour on this. I don't have an hour today, so I'm going to shorten it up, but I will give you some points that I consider. I try to judge people on their job performance based on the things that they control. I'm assuming you would want to be judged the same way. You want to be judged on the things that you do and have control over, not on the things you have no control over. And I spent a lot of time over the last 3 months since the election. That's why they had to print ballots when people showed up, because they didn't know how many people were going to show up. And there was a big shift in where people showed up. Now, I'm not going to argue that the machine problems were rigged or not rigged. I don't know that. But I do know it caused a problem. And I do know that they had an opportunity earlier in the day. By the way, Harmeet was there, head of the election integrity in Arizona, to file a court filing to keep the election doors open for later hours in that day. And it didn't get around to filing it until about an hour before the doors closed. And it was denied at that point, so there wasn't anything they could do about it. I'm not blaming her, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to tell you what I know to be a fact, guys. I'm not trying to imply one thing or another, because I don't know. I know they're looking at that, I know there's lawsuits involved in that, and hopefully whatever the truth is will come out of that. But I can't speak to something that I don't have absolute certain knowledge of. So with that, another thing, again, looking at Nevada, we elected a Republican governor in Nevada.
Another copy for you. Committee woman from Logan County. I have to say that I appreciate what AJ Ferrati said, because he spoke on each candidate. Now, I grew up next door to China and I'm a naturalized citizen. So I'm humbled to be here today. This is a privilege and I'm a servant. My county elected me to come and serve in this role. I have not missed an election from the day that I started voting, and I'm 50 years old. Maybe that's because I live next door to China. Maybe that's because I'm a naturalized citizen. But when we vote on people, we need to know who we are voting for. AJ Ferrati listed all 3 of them that he has met personally. We have a woman who's being paid to lead our group. And when you're paid, that means that you have a job to do. We have a man who's running who has paid millions of dollars to prove with facts that there was campaign fraud. There was a woman here on Wednesday night that I did try to go see. Harmeet was here on Wednesday night, because I like to meet the candidates and ask the tough questions. I don't want to hear it from somebody else. I don't want to hear them when they're answering in front of a camera. I want to hear their answers to me on the tough questions. I don't want someone to tell me the reasons that we should vote for someone. We don't vote for people because they're doing a good job. We vote for people who are going to do the best job for our country. So ask the tough questions of each candidate, know where they stand, know what they're going to do for the American people, not for the Republican Party, for the American people who are losing their freedoms daily.
I'll just end with this on this particular topic tonight, and again, I'm open to conversation with anybody. I'll have to do it later. I'm one of the few people in this room that actually know Harmeet Dillon and Ron McDaniel well. I served with Harmeet on the Election Integrity Committee. I've had hour-long conversations with her. And I'm not, she's a very smart, brilliant woman, there's no doubt about it. I have no fault with her knowledge, experience, and even her passion for the party. I don't doubt that at all. But there's a reason that I can't, at this point, vote for her. For one thing, she's done more to actually harm the RNC than anybody I've ever seen going into a presidential election as far as dividing the party. So, and with that, at the same time, Ron McDaniel has increased the voter turnout in every election, increased registration in every election, raised more money to give to campaigns and help campaigns. And by the way, the one thing the RNC has nothing to do with is electing candidates. And that's another thing I want to share with this body real quick, is we don't want to go there. The RNC does not involve itself in primary elections, except under one circumstance. And that's only if the entire Central Committee of that state, chaired by, and the National Committee man and committee woman all say, you know, this guy's a loser, or this gal's a loser, we can't even afford to even have her on the ticket, much less support her. They can, or him, or whatever, they can. And that very, very seldom happens because they have to be unified in that vote. So the RNC stays out of that. The RNC stays out of primaries. By the way, that's why I think the state party ought to stay out of primaries as well.
Amen.
So, anyway, guys, I think I've used that more than my time.
Yes. I have a point of inquiry. Linnell Medley, McIntosh County Chair. I just wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because I'm not totally familiar with this and I am fairly new. So what is the role of a national committee man and committee woman? Is your job to represent our body?
My job is to represent what I think is in the best interest of the Republican Party for the state of Oklahoma. So you ask, well, why am I against? The reason I can stand up here and say what I'm saying is because I feel like I have information about the candidates that you don't have.
But
my job is to use my best judgment. And
my question is, are you here to represent us? Is that why we voted you in?
I represent.
I just need to know that. It's an honest question.
And the honest answer is I represent the Republican voters and the Republican Party of the state of Oklahoma. Now, you are part of their representative body, but
we are their representative body.
I understand it, but that's the best interest of the Republican Party and the Republicans in the state of Oklahoma, and that's what I'm going to do.
In the interest of time,
yeah,
I'd like to move on from the meeting. And I completely encourage you to chat with Steve afterward. Just real quick, I apologize, Pam. Pam's up next. We didn't get to announce who our elected officials are that are in the room today, and so I wanted to do that very quickly. State Senator Jack Stewart is here.
He's over here.
There he is. Thank you for coming, Jack. State Representative Denise Crosswhite here. Eric Roberts. And Neil Hayes is here. Now, this next one that I've got. I'm sorry? Chris Banning. This next one really warms my heart because she's been a part of this committee for years and years and years and put in a whole lot of work. She's run for office before, but she got it this time. I'm so excited to introduce, and I hope you'll all applaud her. Adair County Assessor, Teresa Turner. I don't know how many of you know Teresa very well, but she's got heart for this party, and I'm so excited to see you represent our party out there in Adair County. National Committee Woman's Report. We've only got a few things left on the report. I encourage questions. I'm going to be clear, I'm going to encourage questions, but I also want to be efficient with our time. So if you do have some questions that may be a little bit better one-on-one, I'd encourage that.
Thank you, AJ, and let me start off by saying I had a little bit of dental work done, so I'm talking with a lisp today, and I have my drink here. Oops, excuse me, that just spilled. I'm going to start off right going with the meat. Question was just asked. What is the role of the National Committee members? I appreciate AJ. I agree with AJ's stance. He doesn't know these people, people running for office. We are going to have open debates there at the meeting. I've been on the committee for 7 years now. Since the day I went on the committee, since the day I really ran as Oklahoma County Chairman back in 2005, my heart has been the same, and that is to represent the voice of the people. I respect Steve for what he said, and he's right in what he said. But I am here, and I have been on Newsmax, for y'all that have seen it. It's in print and in interview. I don't care about that in a way. I care about what the people want. And in this country today, did you guys see a Trafalgar poll that came out? Trafalgar poll came out, I can pull it up real quick, came out. They interviewed 1,000 Republicans throughout the country in the last week. Let me pull it up real quick, guys. And of those 1,000 people polled, 86% want change.
Yep,
86% want change. I am going to be that voice on the RNC. I am going to be supporting Harmeet Dillon. She is the one who received the most votes in this. We love our Mike Lindell. We do. Mike is wonderful, got a heart of gold. Mike did get, now AJ will give you a little bit more information. In order to run for a office that's going to be voted on by all 168 members, you had to be nominated by 3 states. That application, those nominations had to be turned in by yesterday at 5 p.m. So we do know who the candidates are. Ronna McDaniel, Harmeet Dillon, and Mike Lindell are the 3 candidates. There was a 4th, there's really 2 more who announced, from what I understand, they did not submit their 3 states, and by 3 states is a majority of the committee members. So that's 2 out of 3 of the committee members must nominate you from 3 states. So that's at least, 6 people. From everything that I'm being told from inside, the RNC and things, Mike has single-digit support at this time. Okay, 2 things. Number 1, it is a ballot that somebody must receive 50%. I haven't seen what the rules are, but from what we understand, the person with the lowest vote, if no one gets 50% plus 1 on the first ballot, the person with the lowest vote will drop off, and then they will poll us again. Again, it's a secret ballot. You write it on a piece of paper, you go up, then the proxy committee will count the ballots and announce it. No one gets it, then the lowest one goes up. So if at one time there was 9 people running, so that's guaranteed, all these races, until someone voluntarily drops off the ballot. With 3 people, we think it's, of course, only going to go to 2 ballots. First one will drop off. After the first one and the next one, with only 2 candidates there, someone will get 50%. So in the RNC chairman's race, we do expect it to go to 2 ballots. If by chance that Harmeet Dillon does not get in the top 2, then I will support Mike Lindell, because that's what I'm hearing from the people. I think it's important for your voice to be heard and your voice to be represented. It's critical, and especially when we talk nationwide. I think most of you guys know I'm also the CFO of the National Federation of Republican Women. I talk to our state leaders in the Women's Republican Party every week. They say exactly what we're saying right here in Oklahoma. We need change. We want change. We want our voices heard. And somebody needs to be held accountable for us, the results, all of the results. Steve made very, very valid points, and he's right in the points he made. But guys, we're in politics. Perception matters. Perception matters. Now we, as a Republican Party, which by the way, and I know most of you county chairmen already hear this, everybody who has the name Republican with them, it's our fault. Because we are the Republican Party. I can't control an ounce of what they do in the state Senate, and for sure the U.S. Senate. I can't control that Mitch McConnell was reelected. We can't control that Kevin McCarthy was reelected. But I have the opportunity to control the last person of the leadership team of the 2022 elections, and the voters want somebody different. So I have a vote, and I have your voice to go up and vote for somebody different. So that's where I stand on that, and that's the reason why. I'm not anti-Ronna. There's a tremendous amount more, information behind the scenes, but I'm pro somebody. Somebody needs to feel like their voices were heard. And I think Harmeet will do a great job if she's elected. Let me just say real quickly, I hope you guys will look out. There's a lot of accusations being thrown out about all these candidates, and I just want to clarify one. And AJ, I don't know if it was you that said it, no offense if it was you, but a lot of people are talking about Harmeet serving on the board of the ACLU. Harmeet volunteered to be on the board of the ACLU for one reason, to fight the Patriot Act. How many of you guys agree with fighting the Patriot Act? Yeah. That's why she was on the board of the ACLU. When you look at the lawsuits that she's brought, the work that she's done, there's nothing liberal about what Harmeet is. There's nothing, people are saying that she's pro-choice. Go look at some of the pro-life lawsuits that she has brought. But you gotta understand, when you get in a position to make a difference, you do whatever it takes to make that difference. And I'm glad that she had the guts to go join in and be on the board of the ACL to be that voice. And as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, we need to do that more in our own communities. Those of you guys that are working hard on our school boards, God bless you. Good job. Good job. City Council, I tell you what, before we got people like Barbara and Bradley in as Oklahoma City Council, I don't know what Oklahoma City Councilman I could have called to say, hey, can you help the Republican Party find a place in 2 days to hold a meeting for 150 people? So thank you for those that got involved in Oklahoma City to make a difference on this city council. Just a few more things I want to share with you. We are going to have, our leadership vote. I don't know who's going to win that. No one knows. No one knows. I will tell you that Harmeet is within very close striking distance of winning. Right now, Ronna says, and Ronna's team say, they have more than enough. You only need 85 votes in order to be elected. They have more than 85 names on their list. But again, let me remind you, it's a private ballot, and that's what we're telling people. You need to vote your conscience, vote your state, and don't worry about it, because it's a private ballot. You won't know. So get out there. Don't be afraid to speak up, and on your private vote, put it out there. So that's why I don't know who's going to win that. But Ronna appointed me. Well, she sent out an email and asked us all what committee we wanted to serve on. And you guys have heard me say it before. I wanted to serve on the Grassroots Advisory Committee. She appointed me the chairman of the resources, which does the teaching and the training throughout the country. Now, some states have very good training, and some states have no training. They have no manuals. So we've created that and sending that out. Believe it or not, some states are saying, we don't want the RNC coming in doing any training in our state. I said, okay, fine, then you do it. But they're not doing it. That's why we held that meeting and invited county chairmen personally to come to the RNC. And a bunch of them said they'd never heard of this before. Let me ask, hopefully all of our county chairmen do. You guys know what data center is? Does everyone here know what data center is? Well, you won't believe the number of the people in the country, county chairman who's never heard of data center. So that's a failure of the state chairman. Also, I will say, of the 2 committee members who's supposed to be helping their counties. So I'm going to continue to work on that. But when they sent out a new list, kind of an after-election report, they asked, what committee do you want to serve on? And they listed about 8 or 10 or 12 committees. I volunteered to serve on messaging. Because it doesn't matter where's my good friend Steve? To a lot of people, it doesn't matter, there he is. It doesn't matter that we met all the metrics. We never tried. Inside the RNC, when you look at the numbers and you look at the open Senate seats, no one really thought we could take the Senate. But Joe Biden did such a pathetic job, we were hoping that we could. But internally, there was never any hope. I'm talking about looking at data. Data's not always the most important thing, but it does show a picture. No one thought we could win the Senate. So it's not a huge loss, so to speak. Again, data-wise. But
National Committee Man report is up, and Steve, if you feel comfortable with it, if you choose and want to give your proxy update during your report, feel free to do that as well.
I can do that. I set the proxy report aside because I saw it was on the agenda a little bit later, but I'd be glad to get that if you want me to cover all this at one time. I'd be glad to. Well, let's break that up a little bit. I will tell you, As far as the proxy committee report, we've met on numerous occasions, and I think when I do give the report on that, I think people will be delighted to hear kind of the progress we've made and what we're coming up with, and I think you're going to like the outcome of our work in that, and I'll share the information on the committee. Right now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the RNC. Nobody's concerned about anything at the RNC right now, are they? So I just kind of, by now, most of you probably know that I'm leaning toward Ron McDaniel for election. And so the question is, why? Because I know, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, everybody, the majority of the people in here, I'm sure, are wanting a different outcome than that. So why would I do that? And I'm going to share with you why. I mean, one of the reasons you elect people to these positions is to potentially be very thoughtful and deliberate in the choices that we make, the committees we work on, the effort we make in that regard, and who we elect. And why? So, the other night I spoke over an hour on this. I don't have an hour today, so I'm going to shorten it up, but I will give you some points that I consider. I try to judge people on their job performance based on the things that they control. I'm assuming you would want to be judged the same way. You want to be judged on the things that you do and have control over, not on the things you have no control over. And I spent a lot of time over the last 3 months since the election.
Debates from the RNC chair.
Okay, so the election, we're in California, not this coming week, but the next week. The election is going to be on January 27th. Okay, so the election, we're in California, not this coming week, but the next week. The election is going to be on January 27th.
And then the debates will be...
The debate is probably going to be either on that Wednesday or that Thursday. Now, right now, I'm just going to tell you what we know right now. A member of the press asked Ronna if she would, because the last time we had a big election, I think was 2012. And it was a public debate held by a third-party group. I forget who it was, but held by a third-party group. There were 4 or 5 candidates, and they all debated publicly. When Ronna was asked that question, her response was that she wants to debate in front of the 168 because they're the ones voting for her. So according to Ronna, she only wants to debate in a session of the RNC members. I don't know if that's going to change, but that's what she said. And no one else has said anything. Mike and Harmeet said, I'll debate you anytime, anywhere. So unless that changes, it'll be a meeting of the 168. I do not know if press will be allowed in that meeting. We don't determine that. The RNC will.
Okay, I have a point of information also. You were talking about Harmeet, and I don't have anything personally against her, but I do want to bring attention to something. You are a Christian. Most of us in this room are Christians. And Harmeet is not a Christian. And our founding fathers were Christians. And SCOTUS's decisions were based on biblical precepts. So I have a difficult time supporting someone.
Okay, for those that can't hear her, and I almost talked about this, and we have to move on. The question was, Harmeet Dillon is from India, and she is of the Sikh faith, okay? And the question was that we're a Christian nation founded on Judeo-Christian values, and how can somebody like that? Let me tell you, when in 2006, and some of you guys know it, Ernest Istook ran for governor in the state of Oklahoma. Ernest Istook is a Mormon. The Southern Baptist churches in Oklahoma voted not to support Ernest Istook because he was a Mormon and some people don't think Mormons are Christian. Okay? So, Ronna's a Mormon. Look at it like that. Nothing Harmeet has ever said or done has ever done anything to not defend the values of America, whether it's Christian-based or the values of America. I know Harmeet very, very well. I do not have a problem with her as a leader thinking that she is going to put her sheep faith above a Christian faith. She's never shown that in her history of that.
Is the Bible her standard?
No, that's the question. The Bible is not her standard because she's sheep faith. And I will tell you, the Bible is absolutely my standard above anything and everything that's out there. We're going to answer to God one day, not to our Constitution, not to our state laws. We're going to answer to God.
Then I suggest that you vote for Michael Liddell for that reason.
Thank you very much. We need to move on. So as I told you at the beginning of the meeting, if we do go too long, my boss is over here, and I believe in family values, and he's got a basketball game. So if we get too much further down the road, Shane's just going to pop up here. So just so you know about that. Treasurer's report. So just so you know where we're going, we got the treasurer's report. John Elliott's got a report for you. It's going to be pretty quick. We'll have a report of the proxy committee. I don't know if they're issuing their report today or not. They're just going to give you an update, and then we'll have a resolution. We've kind of talked about the state convention a little bit, so I think we'll probably forego that unless there's additional questions, and then we'll be out of here. So I'd like to bring up John Elliott, do the treasurer's report.
Just to keep everybody up to date, all the FEC reports and ethics reports are currently filed and timely. Just completing this election cycle, you can imagine we had very large expenses for all the mailings and programs we ran. We did. But since the inception of this administration from June 1st through December, Chairman Ferrati told you earlier, we do have other receipts. I'm just giving you through December 31st. We took in $570,000 over that period. With the large expenses, especially with the election cycle, we spent slightly over $502,000, leaving us ahead for the year as of December 31st, as of $68,000. So we're moving along and watching what we're doing. And that's all I have at the current time. So thank you very much.
So I was just advised that you don't have a copy of the treasurer's report in your packet. We'll get that out to you. I'm sorry that didn't happen. We'll get you that. We'll get you a copy of the latest FEC report. The FEC report that we file on the 20th of this month is the full year of 2021. So we'll get that out to you as soon as we publish that one to report that to the FEC as well. I'm sorry for that oversight. Steve, do you want to come up and do the proxy, or Sarah, are you doing the proxy committee?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick update here. Very quickly, I want to first at least introduce members of the committee: Galen Stupik, Troy Fullerton, Phil Stan, Michael Stopp, Sarah Klutz, and then Joshua was in here. He helped administratively a lot of this. Thank you guys for your service. I wanted them to, so I was hoping today to be able to actually give you a final report. We were actually meeting as late as 5:30 to 6 o'clock last night, trying to maybe have a final report. We actually had some information typed up, but we don't quite think it's like right off the finish line. So our goal is to meet in the next week or so and get out the final recommendations and report to you before the next meeting. And you have those in your hands. You'll have to be able to look at it because we are making a recommendation of changes in the rules as it regards to proxies. I will tell you a little bit about the process as well as some of our findings. I can address the findings as to what happened and what was caused the discrepancies, which everybody was concerned with, legitimately so, between the vote count and the proxy count, or the people that were in the room and how many proxies were actually voted. So what we did is when we first met and lined out kind of the process that we're going to go through, in our next meeting we got out all the boxes of the proxy forms. We segregated, separated them into different stacks that represented different groups, like elected officials and non-elected officials, and began to put eyeball on these things one at a time. And it became very clear pretty quickly as we began through this process what had occurred. Once we sorted through about 70% of the proxies, what we found is that the sign-in books, people were signing in that were supposed to have proxies. Some of those people carrying proxies never actually signed in on the book. So they were in the room, but they didn't sign the book, and again, credentialing, checking people in and giving them a proxy, for some reason gave them a proxy but didn't witness them signaturing on the book. And so that clearly became obvious to every member of the committee that was a problem. And one of the offshoots of this, by the way, is going to be some recommended, hopefully, I think AJ addressed this earlier, perhaps putting some committees together, one of them being credentials committees. And we've actually, even though it wasn't our purview, roughed out some what we think is very good language for whatever that committee is to work off of to make changes in credential committees and credential rules and how we go about that process. We have 99% through rewritten proposed rule changes for the handling of proxies that we think will address the issues in here and maybe simplify the process a little bit. I can tell you that some of the major changes that are in there are reducing the number of proxies that are allowed and reducing the number of times proxies can be used in a given calendar year by any one official, and setting together a really good table for how that's to be worked. And I think you're going to like the finished product, so much so that when you get it out there, I certainly hope that you will read through it carefully, analyze it, and see where these rule changes I think will make handling of proxies and the use of proxies different going forward in the future. Yes, sir.
Gregory Hahn from Altus. I've been involved in this about a year and a half, a little more than that. In our area of the state, I've been to every, except missed one because I was so angry at the last one. I said, I'm not going to. People that are not even elected and Republican, as far as that, are the ones that are coming into our meetings with these things and voting for. We've got people in Harmon County, Tillman County, Kiowa County, our county, people that represent that are not on the committees and have never come to a meeting, but they give it to certain people with power. And they come into these meetings and they manipulate. I was there this past August, and this man right there stood up and he shoved him under the bus. This whole group shoved him under the bus. He voted the year before, and they manipulated the whole thing, and I sat there and watched a handful of people in the back of the room, sending people here and there to get up front and to communicate and to drive us to where we're at right now. Because we were supposed to meet last April. Then they said, oh, we'll vote in September. Well, in Oklahoma, what Republican's going to come and have a convention in September when OU and OSU is playing football? Sorry, we don't love politics that much. So they did it, oh, let's do a 2-day convention next year. And that's exactly what they were after. And it came from these things. This is the first time I've had extra folks, because on the committee in our area, they've gone every time. And they said, we sit here, it's a waste of time, because the same people have all these extra folks and manipulate the whole thing. And why do we have them? Why can't this, if you're not going to show up, 2.5 hours. If you want to have it in East Oklahoma, it's going to be 5 hours. I'll drive, I'll come. If they don't come, they don't need to vote. we've got 150 people in our area that we've gotten involved. They tell us what they want to vote for. And then the moment we come up here, it's taken from us. Because I'm one guy, but this other guy, he's 5 guys, 6 guys, or 8 guys.
Sure, I hate to interrupt you, but we kind of...
I got you, but why is this part of what you're talking about, not having them?
Well, I mean, Galen was on the committee and she stood up and I know she probably has something to say, so I will address that if she doesn't, but go ahead, Galen.
So, Galen Stupich, Oklahoma County. Your point is well taken, and according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is the parliamentary procedures that is our overriding parliamentary procedures, it actually says for a deliberative body, which this is, no proxies. No proxies.
Yeah.
So my stance has always been no proxies, and I would say the majority of the committee believes that. However, we also recognize that may not pass, and so the reason we've worked on this, and this will be mentioned in the report, the reason we have recrafted that whole section is so that there will be a vote. And what I'm telling you is this body potentially, but definitely the convention, will end up getting that as business. So you still have a say in this. So.
Yeah, obviously, it's ultimately going to be up to this body to decide what happens. So, in any case, yeah, Troy was up next. I'll come to you, sir. Yeah.
Troy Fullerton, Garvin County Chair. First of all, I just wanted to say, I think you'll be very pleased with what we're putting in place. However, if seriously, because we were thinking in terms of, like Galen said, we're thinking in terms of, well, if we tried to say we should have no proxies, and if that does not pass, we're right back where we started from. So what I would encourage you to do in your county, submit a resolution so it can be voted on to say we should not have proxies in the state committee, so that can be considered. But in case that doesn't pass, at least we fix some major problems. So I really do think you'll be pleased with what we've come up with. We've addressed a lot of the concerns that you're talking about. We really have. And I think you'll be pleased with once you read that. But if you feel strongly that we should have no proxies, you have a lot of support, submit that resolution so it can be voted on.
We did discuss all of that actually in our meeting, but our charge was to find out what happened with the proxies at the last, in the May 23rd meeting, what had happened, what had caused the discrepancy, which we did find. But the other part was to make recommendations and rule changes on proxies. It wasn't to eliminate proxies. That would be something altogether. But we did make changes to the proxy rules. Yes, sir. This gentleman had his hand up next. And I think we're... Yeah.
Paul Karslowski, Logan County. It's just my thought that when we have proxies, we should not have any voice vote. You're not going to get an accurate voice vote from somebody who's carrying 3 proxies against somebody who does 0 proxies.
Again, that you may be right on that, sir. That's not something we addressed in the meeting. How to vote proxies. Go ahead.
Kevin Farmer.
Yeah.
Kevin Farmer, Creek County.
Kevin Farmer, Creek County. Yes.
I think you all know this, living in Oklahoma, but this is just the noon siren in Oklahoma City. So just making sure anybody gets a little concerned.
Yes, I did. First of all, I want to say I appreciate the committee's work, and it's clear you're giving us a fallback position that is better than what's been before. I just have a question. Did the committee look of whether or not there was harvesting of proxies at the legislature? Not that that is necessarily illegal or whatever, but do we currently have a practice of handing out proxy forms to the legislators as a convenience to them?
I would say it would be fair to say that the committee talked about all that stuff, all of it. And we looked at, and that's what's part of the rules problem. There wasn't anything in the rules that said that, and by the way, I'll just use your own county. Let's say you know that somebody from your county that could be part of the representative body here couldn't make it. There was nothing wrong. There's nothing in the rules that say, well, you couldn't go ask them to give you the proxy. anybody asking somebody else to give you a proxy, there wasn't anything in the rules that said you could not do that. Now, that's changed. I mean, I think the chain of custody rules that we're putting in here, you're gonna like. I mean, it's gonna evolve some of that. We're reducing the number and the process. But there is an argument on other sides, not on the harvesting part, but on the reason to have proxies. Yes, sir. Gentleman in the back. Can you speak out loud enough?
Yes, very quickly. I have a recommendation to your committee. My name is Jim Mayer, Texas County. I just had a quick recommendation, personal recommendation for your report that your committee makes. I'm sure the idea of doing away with proxies will come through the resolutions process. Who knows if we'll get to vote on that this year at committee, but if you guys in your committee would also recommend that the delegate body get to make that change in the bylaws, I think it would be wonderful and everybody would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I think it has to be a delegate body to do that, sir.
No, I was just gonna say, I think for time, we got a resolution still. So.
Let me wrap it up real quick. So what you're gonna do, everybody's gonna get a copy of our proposed rule changes. And there was a lot of discussion back and forth on a lot of these issues that you guys have brought up in here. Trust me, there was a lot of hard conversations on that. And again, I want to thank the other members of the committee that served with me on that. And you'll have time to look it over, read it, and discuss it before the next state committee meeting. And therefore, you should be well informed by that time. So I got to go. My boss is telling me to get off here.
Yeah. Will we get, this is Matthew Remain, Chair of Wagner County. So will we get a copy of the full report from your committee, not just the recommendation of what you're doing?
Like I said, we were this close to just handing it out today, but there was just a few other changes and not everybody got to vote on them in the meeting last night at 6. So in fairness to every member of the body, I wanted them to be able to give an okay on those final changes. So we should have something out to you very, very quickly in the next week to 10 days. And thank you all. Appreciate it.
Resolutions must be submitted 10 days before the meeting, and we have one notified resolution for today.
I'd like to make a motion.
What would be your motion? Is it to make a resolution? Yes. Yeah, well, I can't recognize that today, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we have an agenda that has resolutions already listed on it.
Point of parliamentary, this particular agenda was never approved in this body today.
It doesn't have to be. Now, let me get through the agenda. Let me get through the scheduled agenda.
Point of order. I'm asking the indulgence of the assembly to bring this motion because it is germane to the discussion.
Okay, the proxy committee has not concluded their report, and so I would encourage you to bring that timely at the next meeting.
Is the point
But
not
we
well
need
taken?
to.
Mr. Chairman, is the point not well taken?
I understand that you want to bring a resolution.
The point is not well taken. The assembly decides whether they'll indulge me bringing this motion. No.
Yes.
It must be voted on by the assembly if the chairman rules that the point is not well taken.
Please. So let's do this. We're going to do it by standing vote. And I know that there's proxies out there, so I understand that. But let's take an initial vote by standing vote. I understand. What county are you from? Okay. The woman from Oklahoma County would like to make a resolution that was not noticed for this meeting. If you would like to allow her to make her motion as a resolution, please stand. Okay. You're recognized back there.
Thank you.
If you would like her to be able to make a non-agenda motion today, or if you oppose her making a non-agenda motion today, please stand.
you first have to understand that it's not properly brought. And I see an overwhelming number of people that oppose bringing that motion today. So if they don't, please bring it at the next meeting, and please submit it to the state party 10 days prior to the meeting. Now, we do have a properly recognized resolution for today. Where is Rhonda Smith? The resolution is in your packet. I want to allow Rhonda to come up to explain her resolution.
Okay. The Tulsa County resolution is presented by myself and by my state committee member, Bob Jack. Whereas we have experienced in the past the credentialing process for state, district, and county conventions unnecessarily delays business of the convention. Whereas the Credentials Committee and Appeals Committee must deal with numerous issues prior to submitting a preliminary and final credentials report to the convention. This proposal deals with a logistical issue that significantly delays the submission of those reports. Whereas during the past several conventions, non-registered delegates have arrived to take advantage of same-day on-site registration. This causes several bottlenecks in the process. It consumes valuable resources to process those individuals and verify their delegate status. Fees must be paid and processed, badging must be established. If the individual is not on the county delegate list, that person is then referred to the appeals committee, and the committee then contacts the county chairman or vice chairman to verify that the individual is in fact a delegate whose name was left off of the county list. Therefore, we propose to eliminate same-day registration and require all delegates register and pay appropriate fee no later than 3 days prior to the start of the convention check-in. It will be incumbent on the county leadership to educate and notify all delegates and Republican legislators in their county of the new registration procedure change. Whereas proper notification starts with an accurate delegate list, which is to be submitted to the state party 30 days prior to the convention. There have been numerous counties that do not submit the list in a timely manner, and some fail to submit a list at all, further adding to the time necessary to present the credentials report, resulting in frustrated pre-registered attendees. Therefore, it is incumbent upon county leadership to make their delegates and Republican legislators in their county aware of the change in the procedure for registration. Education and notification are critical, otherwise individuals will arrive at the convention and be denied access.
Is there a second for
Second.
Second.
Okay. Name, county?
Denver, Payne County.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Will there be debate on the motion?
Questions? I do have questions. I don't know if it's considered debate. I'll debate you. Galen Stupich, Oklahoma County. So in reading this, I went back to party rules, and Rule 16H says 7 days prior to convention. At the last convention 2 years ago, we had submitted, and lists kept coming back from the state, which were not accurate. It went back and forth, to the point where we had problems at the convention that day because of communication problems, and that had to do with the building of the database. What are you doing to assure us that, one, that's not going to take place, that we're not going to have those problems which had to do with submitting the delegates and having those issues, and the fact that sometimes, right now in Oklahoma County, we have precinct meetings set for January 28th, 19 locations for 22 House districts of this county. We're expecting to have a greater number of delegates to go. And what I'm understanding, if I'm reading these rules, is that you want to set list of delegates and that nobody will come to the convention. So I guess if you want to answer, In other words, nobody can come that isn't on the list. Is that what you're saying?
You
Is
can
that what you're
attend as a
saying?
guest if you're not on the list.
Okay.
So what will happen is it's a program that we're going to be using that's used by large organizations across the United States for convention registration. We are going to load into their database, it would be our database, but we're going to load our delegates in there, so that when you go to place your ticket purchase or register for the convention, if your name is not in there, then it's going to pop up and say, I'm sorry, you can't register as a delegate. Would you like to register as a guest? So at that time, if you know you're a delegate, you contact your county chair or the county office, and you have them reach out to the state party to confirm this, because we're going to be the ones in contact, or have them contact me. We're going to be in contact with this organization. So we're going to make sure that to the best that we can, because there could always be human error, but we're going to make sure that everybody's in there. So we're going to know if we have a 3-day deadline, and you wait until the 3rd day before, you wait until the deadline day, you're pushing us to have to make it happen. But if you go ahead and you have it, if you're already pre-registered, you're gonna know that you're accepted as a delegate to the convention.
So, do you know the name of that system? Is that something you could share?
The one that I'm looking at right now is C-Vent.
C-Vent?
Just C-Vent, right. Go in there and you can look at their program and how they operate, and it's kind of a cafeteria style where we can pick what we want to use out of their system.
So then I think my next question is, with this resolution, this would be a friendly resolution and not a requirement because it's not in line with party rules. Are you asking to override party rules that give us 7 days in advance? Because it actually spells that out in
7
16.
days in advance to
It says the list of those persons signing as delegates must be submitted to the congressional district or state chairman at least 7 days prior to the respective convention.
We're just asking that we move the dates ahead to allow for more. If you wait until 7 days to submit your list, then your people are not going to be able to register until those lists are.
Point of clarification, that rule is actually where the state party has to prefer to provide the list of qualified delegates down to the district levels. It's not where we have to get them to the state party. That is.
Hang on just a second.
That was not clarification. I'm sorry. That did not help me at all.
Well, when you look at the rules backwards, it wouldn't clarify. Joe Beffer, Washington County. The rule that you're referring to requires the state to provide the district the list to the districts of all of the qualified delegates that have been submitted 7 days before said convention. This has nothing to do with the county submitting that rule.
That's not what it says here.
Say it again.
In the interest of time, because our meeting's supposed to be over.
Sure.
And in the interest of, we just got this resolution yesterday, and we've not had an opportunity to discuss this amongst ourselves or with the county committee, and we really don't have time for a proper debate because it's already over. I say that we table this motion. Okay, I make a motion that we postpone it until a later time.
A motion has been made to table. Is there a second for a motion to table?
I'll second, but I was just a point of information.
Okay.
Again, Galen and I, apparently, as chairman, had the same problem. We submitted names. I know I did at least 3 times get exchanging until.
There's a motion on the floor, Brian. I understand what you're saying.
We walked up. Well, I think people deserve to know before.
There's a motion to table. So let me do that first, okay? Okay. And he did second it, that's correct, yes. So there is a motion on the floor. We're going to do this by standing vote to start. Those in support of tabling this resolution, please stand. Okay, sit down, please. Those opposed to tabling the motion, please stand. I believe that it's overwhelming, and we are going to continue with debate.
Okay, I make a motion to postpone it until our next state committee.
It's
Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to convey to you guys that the last time we had a convention, numerous county chairs had multiple problems with this, and I'm not saying we're gonna this time. I totally understand the idea behind this. But let's just say we do run into that again, and we're doing the back and forth up until right before the convention. My people show up like they did last time, and there's no way to vet them to get in, and it's not their fault. It wasn't my fault. I submitted it, and it wasn't any of ours. Well, it shouldn't have been a problem last time, but yet it was. And we have no emergency measures. I'd feel better if we had some emergency measures. I'm fine with the pre-registration and everything else, but
address your concern from my perspective. And I'm not entering debate in this, I'm just letting you know, this is a resolution, this isn't a final hard rule. If we do run into problems, we at the state party are more than happy to cater to those issues. I think that the important thing to take out of this is the pre-registration element, that we want people to register ahead of time. And if you have an issue, if the county has an issue, I'm not gonna be a jerk about it, we're gonna let you in. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay. I have heard a call for the question. There's a second for the question.
We haven't finished discussion.
Those in support of calling the question, please stand. We've been doing this by if you. So, as we. So let me be clear. What we're doing is we're voting to vote. If you are in support of calling the question, which means we will vote on the resolution now.
Ending debate.
Please stand.
Ending debate.
Okay, thank you. Sit down. This is a resolution. This does not take a two-thirds vote. Those opposed to ending debate, please stand. There's not the support or the support is there to end debate. The question has been called. And we now move to the resolution.
I was standing to
So
speak.
we have now moved on to the resolution. Those in support of the resolution, please signify by standing.
What is that? What is that?
To have pre-registration, no day of registration at convention. Please sit. Those opposed to the resolution. The ayes have it. There will be no pre-registration, or there will only be pre-registration. No day of registration.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts? What do you?